Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with another lesson. I'm just going to bring out a few verses that, um, sort of will help, I think, people understand the vantage point that I read the Bible, and then I think it'll maybe give some context as to why, I'm stubborn as well about certain positions that I hold. And so, just a recent example, a person came by saying that they had some revelation from God where they were told that divorce, sickness, and poverty is because people don't trust God. And so the way I just think of that, that's a very sort of ground up, thinking of the world, and like on the personal level, and then person to person. And so that is true that there are elements of that that are true, without a doubt. That people who don't trust God or don't know God, and then that kind of thing, and then don't please Him, then it can lead to those, things, happening, divorce, sickness, poverty, and lots of other things too. So, there's elements of that being true, but that's not a comprehensive in any way. That's not comprehensive at all. And because we know a lot more now, and then obviously from the Bible, and then God telling us that these verses are literal, and then a majority of the Bible is actually very, very literal. And so my channel is called The Mind of God because I believe that that's actual place, that God exists and then He has a mind where all of this was, architected prior to us experiencing it. But, and then also it's that vantage point, looking down, and then from His eye, so to speak, from His mind, and so we have the ability to understand, certain things about Him. And then I want people to know that the reason I'm very against that type of teaching in the times that we live in now is that it's more comforting to understand it from this perspective, from the top down, because it takes quite a few burdens off of us, and that's what has happened. As you get deeper and deeper into the Bible, you get a greater appreciation for how much God is doing and how little we're doing, and then I'll bring verses to support that. And I want people to know that's comforting, because there's a huge business, and a lot of people that come by my channel still to this day are trying to get us into this system, get involved in emotional this and that. And it's not wrong if you want to go and do it, just to like pass time, or you feel like it's something interesting for you, but you're not required to, that's the whole point. And so just know that, because there's always going to be a door open for you to be involved in that, kind of just emotional back and forth and things that are not profitable, at all. And so, especially if you understand these verses, and the vantage point that we should be sort of understanding the world from the beginning, but then we know it, very, very clearly now. And then, we have this vantage point, and then so for people to understand too, like the reason why there's so much deception and then undoing that deception is we're alive now, because we don't trust anything except the Bible, because the God of it says that He's behind the deceptions. And so we run and cling to these words even more, and then try and piece it together. And then, that's the vantage point that I answer questions. And so somebody asked recently about rewards and like, what our mindset should be, whether we should pursue them or just, act as if there are no rewards, and like, which is good. It's a good question. It's an introspective question, but, we'll get that. I'll answer that indirectly with these verses. So this is the angle that I'm always going to answer things. And then anybody who comes with a different one tries to get me or people around here involved in earthly things, unless we're just there to laugh at them, or just to kill time, then, just know that, that there'll always be that pull, back into that kind of thing. And I would just say, just avoid it, because, if the Bible's true, Christ will be appearing, very, very soon in the sky. And so that's pretty obvious, that it's going to be known whether these words are true or not very, very soon, so it's comforting to understand this, because we've had such a heavy burden. I've had such a heavy burden. I think a lot of people have throughout human history that, that their lives are like so much bigger, and then we should just shrink them down to what is appropriate, that we are ultimately a character in God's movie. And then I'll prove that with these verses. And it takes a huge weight off, because then we know that God is literally in control of everything, and that He's in control of what happens when we're out of the body and then beyond. And so we don't even know what that is, what that even means and all that kind of stuff. And that's okay. That's more than okay. And anybody that claims to know are out of their mind, and that kind of thing. And so all of these verses I want people to be comforted by, because they bring me a tremendous amount of comfort. And then it actually unlocks the Bible from a theological perspective too. Because if you don't understand this, then you won't be able to see. I think it's pretty obvious to a lot of people that the earth is all, everybody's an actor. It just depends what their role is, and then there's a group that are aware of this, and then there's other people that will not admit that. They will not say that they have any kind of role or agenda or like what their angle is. They won't admit that. They won't talk like that, because then they will then be, they will then be giving credit to the Bible being a particular narrative that they're involved in, whether they will tell you or not. And then that's not their job, to add credibility to the Bible, all these other actors. And so, my job is to remind people that give all credit, to the God of the Bible. And we're going to read a specific verse that reminds us of that. It's everywhere, but it doesn't hurt to get reminded again. Okay, that's all we should do, is give more and more credit to God, for everything. And so the aspect that I want this to comfort people is that don't get bogged down with all your sins and stuff, and like, obviously we're, especially now with what we know, with the flat stationary earth and other things, that God exists, but don't get too hard, don't be too hard on yourself, and all that kind of stuff, because we didn't create this world, okay, and like the evil and all that. If we even like people who are not even super righteous, everyday average people, like us that gather here, we could come up with a better situation, more fair setup, like in a day or two, okay? And so this system was designed to be Antichrist, not by us, okay? We're in it, and it's as a judgment, but don't take blame for everything, is what I'm trying to say. All the sins that we committed in our life, we're not responsible for every single one, okay? Some of them it was just because of the situation that we're in, and then if we knew more, or we were given, a different situation, like we wouldn't choose that. Like if we were if someone literally like had a video of the earth and like, showed us that it's flat, like, would we just make up the ball earth, and be like, oh, you know what? I don't want to believe that. I'm just going to believe something else. Like we would know then we're on a flat stationary earth then, and we would ask natural questions like, well, what's outside of it, and like all that. And, like it would just lead to those kind of, that kind of curiosity. And so I'm not taking all of our sins off our plate, but just know that we were born into an evil system that you and I did not design, okay? We're not smart enough to design it, okay? And that kind of thing. And so it's a gift that it's being undone. Absolutely. We would have been chosen, in that regard, to not believe those things. And so that's an incredible gift, from God, because he could use us to do whatever he wants. And these verses will prove that. So, but, don't get too hard on yourself about the past. I want people to look forward to the future. And I believe the very near future that there's a kingdom, if the God of the Bible is the one who's behind all of this. And I think for most of us now, we know, that is the case. It's as close to knowing as it can be, that that he's in control of all of this whole setup. And made this earth, this physical earth that we stand on. So, and okay, so I'm going to start with Revelation 4:11. Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things. That's all. Every single thing, okay? God did not make just his right-hand side and then his left-hand side just sort of popped out, out of that or something like that, okay? God made all things, okay? He made Christ, the Most High made Christ, and he made Satan. And Satan reports to the Most High. Satan cannot do anything, cannot think about doing a single thing unless God allows it, okay? And then just know that, okay? All things. And for thy pleasure they are and were created, okay? So it's okay for us to acknowledge that that's a peculiar thing. How can God create good and evil and then say here that it's for his pleasure, okay? It's not wrong to say that's peculiar, okay? We don't know, okay? And we may never know. And then it's just whatever he decides to disclose to people. And he doesn't have to, okay? He's not bound by anything, okay? Like it says here, he created all things. Our ability to accept and reject him is just another aspect of his creation, to allow that sort of wiggle room, okay? And use that wiggle room wisely. But this in 4:11 for 44. So God's elect will understand all of this stuff, that I'm sharing here, and they'll understand this vantage point, and they'll understand the other people were trying to bring us down to another not profitable vantage point. Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. So who's he receiving it from? Is he receiving it from us? because we're taking it away from ourselves. We're taking all the glory, honor, and power out of ourselves. We don't want it, okay? We give it back to God where it belongs, okay? And then this quote power, this energy inside of us, we literally want it back with him, so he can then reproject it back down to the kingdom, and then allow us to be with him, and that kind of thing. So it's literal, in that regard. A majority of the Bible is literal, and then that's a problem for a lot of people who are Satanists, that they don't like that we read these verses and we take them literally, okay? And so those people are Satanists. Proverbs 20:24, this 20 plus 24 is 44. This is another verse that a group will understand. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Question mark. It's rhetorical. So God controls everybody's mind, okay? No one can do anything, good or evil, unless God allows it. And then I'm going to support that with another verse. Every verse. It just makes sense, okay? How can God set a narrative but then not control every single character in the movie? What's he going to have? Like one renegade or a group of renegades who just can come and, alter his plans or whatever? Absolutely not, okay? We couldn't even wake up this morning unless God wanted that, okay? And our next breath is not promised to us, okay? And so just know that, okay? And I want people to take comfort in this. This is not me on some spiritual high horse, okay? I don't get anything. Or there's not money raining down, when I do these videos or anything like that. Okay, this is for the few, okay, who can take comfort in this and know that God controls both sides. Okay, so we can take comfort in that, okay? Because then anything that happens from the left-hand side, God wanted that, okay? Just like Christ said right from his mouth, he could not have been crucified unless the Most High ordained that event, that gruesome act, okay? And he was aware of that, okay? And we know this now because we take the Bible literally where it's appropriate. And it's appropriate in most places, and take this verse literally, and the other one, all of them pretty much. So just know that, okay? So this video will be comforting to a few and irritate the rest, okay? And who cares? Laugh at them because they're retarded. Okay, good. They can just go and they can just go and do their street preaching and all the gibberish that they're into, waste time, talking about just absolutely nothing. And they don't understand that we're in a movie, okay? And God's the director. And so if we're in a movie, that's basically a nightmare, the most evil thing you could ever imagine that somehow is pleasurable for the Most High. What would any normal person do? Oh, yeah, let me see. Let's see what's on behind door number 2. Let me continue another moment in this evil movie. No, absolutely not. We want to give God glory and honor and power, and then be with him, and then understand why this is pleasurable for him. And then how can we be pleasing to him without the evil, and then we cannot contribute to the evil anymore. So we have to ask to not be evil anymore. And then the Bible says in many places that I've done in these lessons recently, that that's the plan, for God's elect, that he will actually put his law into their mind, and into their inward part, but they have to ask for it first. Like it says here, the only way that that's possible is if he receives glory and honor and power from his elect. Okay, so we have to do it. Okay, that's our responsibility. And so do that, all of us. Okay. Romans 12:3. Okay, and this is 12:3-36. Okay, these are things that are going to be happening in the last days, and understood mostly in the last days. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man, the measure of faith. Okay, some have anti-faith, some have a lot of faith, some have less. God's left and right hand side, but God assigns all of it to every man. Okay, so for people, the individual who asked sincerely about the rewards and stuff, don't worry. You don't even know, but your mind is being controlled right now by God, and you don't even know it. And so we did not choose when we became flat earthers or America's Mystery Babyloners or all that stuff. We did not choose that. Okay, God decided that. He knew the minute, the millisecond that all those things were going to be allowed for us to even contemplate them, much less believe them and cling to them and all that kind of stuff. And God measured it and poured it, okay? And he doesn't miss. Okay, whoops, we kind of hit the wrong person there. Don't worry, that's not going to happen, okay? And has never happened throughout human history. Jesus Christ is the fullness of the Most High, and then so he's our example who got the most measure, of that faith. And then he has the most power because he can be trusted, with that power. So just know that. So we are all characters in God's movie, and take comfort in that. That's why I'm doing this lesson. Okay, Hebrews 11:6, 11 times 6 is 66. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. These are all verses that I want people to understand we know in the last days. Okay, that's why this numerology is there. And so just know that. And so with that faith, and then, that's how we can please God, with faith. Okay, and then we're going to, I'll read Luke 17 also. A very interesting question that the disciples asked Christ, well, how do we increase our faith? And then it's very interesting how he answers that. So just keep in mind that the Bible is never going to contradict itself, okay? So, like I read in Romans 12:3, which links up with this verse because they both have 66 in it, that God assigns the faith. And then it's our job with that faith that we have then to use that to approach God. That's what is our quote unquote our responsibility. God quote unquote knocks, and then we have to open, and then God teaches us things, and we have to come out of her, my people, in the last days, and really every generation. But that's our responsibility. Okay. And then he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him, but all credit goes to God because he implanted the faith first, and then we react to it. Okay. That's the cause and effect. That's a quote unquote sequence. Okay. So all credit goes to God ultimately because of Revelation 4:11 and then Proverbs 20:24 ultimately. Okay. And so it's never about us, and then I'm going to bring out another verse to support that, but that's the way it works, quote unquote. Okay. So God gives us the faith, and then the part that at least he lets us think that we're responsible. It's our doing is the part here that he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And so that's the local amount of free will, but again, he ultimately knows how intensely everybody's going to seek him because he implanted the faith. He put his energy in all different types of people and different amounts, in all different types of people. And then, like I said, Christ has the fullness. Okay. And so it's still all ultimately him, but this is the part that we have a sense that we're free to do that. Okay. But we're ultimately not. And so this is a very amazing interaction here in Luke 17:5-10. The apostle said to the Lord, increase our faith. And the Lord said, if you had faith like a grain of mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you. And I want people to know this is literal in the last days. Okay. When Christ returns with his elect to destroy those with the mark of the beast, that's why this is in verse 6, then they're going to be able to do that. Okay. So at that time, they don't understand, but we know now that this is literal. Okay. And so how come he doesn't say, oh, just do 10 push-ups a day? Oh, no, just tithe to me. Just come out in the streets every day, and then, go, serve, go preach, 5 times a day, every day, and post 10 videos and yada, yada, yada. How come he didn't run down a list like that? Because Christ is aware, okay, needless to say, because he comes in the volume of this book, he's not going to contradict what the Bible says. Okay, so don't listen to these stupid people who don't read the Bible and don't know anything about anything. They're trying to scam you. They're trying to bait you into more and more evil. Okay, and then it's my job just to remind people, don't be stupid. Okay, trust these words. Okay, it's right from Christ's mouth. Okay, what's he going to do? Tell lies? Okay, we have to then infer based on his answer that's the correct answer. Okay, what he said here. He's like, even if you have a small amount, he's actually complimenting, he's saying that this to his disciples, the apostles, that you could actually say to this mulberry tree, just go to get dumped in the ocean. And so again, he's saying this is literal. In the last days, they're going to destroy, burn all the trees, move mountains and all that kind of stuff. And so just know that, they probably didn't know at that time that he meant in the last days, but it's very, very literal, that any amount of faith in God can produce that type of destruction, and that type of power. And so he cannot say, oh, I can help you increase it or whatever, because that would be against what I've read, right here in Romans 12:3, where it says God has dealt every man the measure of faith. That doesn't change. Okay. It's not like, oh, here's a little knob, oh, a little more, a little less today, just kind of whatever I feel like or whatever. No, it's what God assigns to that person. Okay, so that's why he didn't say, you can't increase it or decrease it or anything like that. That's not the way it works. Okay. Verse 7, will any one of you who has a servant plowing or keeping sheep say to him when he has come in from the field, come at once and recline at the table? Will he not rather say to him, prepare supper for me and dress properly and serve me while I eat and drink, and afterward you will eat and drink? Does he thank the servant because he did what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were commanded. So you just do it, okay? And you can't do anything that God has not programmed you to do. Just know that, okay? Say, we are unworthy servants. We have only done what was our duty. Okay. And so where is that language anywhere on YouTube or anywhere in real life? Okay. This is why God's people are scattered. Okay. You're not going to, and no one in the mainstream or any talks like this. Okay. They're all just like, oh, the super chat's, there, my PayPal's below, and all this gibberish is below. Here's 10 options of the way the end times is going to be. I don't know. And maybe, I don't know, maybe. That's what you get. Just a bunch of like talking circlers, ticklers that I call them, and all that kind of stuff. Where are these people? We are unworthy servants. Okay. We're just doing it because God programmed us to do that. Okay. Where's that language anywhere? So, they're not, I get all these, where's my mansion, where's my Ferrari and all that kind of stuff. We don't talk like that, okay? Our objective is simply for God to then declare his servants then to be his friends, and then we're with God. That's the reward, okay? If people haven't figured it out, that is the reward, okay? Everything else is just a detail, okay? If you've been in this as evil that's going on in the world right now, and then now you're around the person who's behind both of it, and then they give you some insight as to like why that needed to happen, and then you're now dwelling in safety, where else would you want to go? I'll go fishing when you're around infinity and the brilliant entity. I want to go golfing, okay? I want to go, drive, my car, or like where else would you want to be, okay? And I'm just saying this rhetorically for all of us, okay? This is a sermon to myself. That's it, okay? And then Christ says that the group in his inner circle moved from being servants to his friends, okay? And then that's all we want, but that's a lot, and that's amazing just to think about. So that's all we say, okay? Based on the amount of faith that we have been given, like I read, in Romans 12:3, we do that, and then we pursue God diligently, and then we encourage others to do that as well. And then that was our job, okay? And that's it. No more, no less, okay? And then all we're supposed to say, always, is that we are unworthy servants. Why are we unworthy? Because we didn't choose any of this, okay? You didn't go run laps. Give me an extra measure of faith if I go do 100 push-ups, okay, God? Are you cool with that? Okay, when did we negotiate that, okay? That's why we're unworthy, because all of these truths that come to us, which ultimately presents itself as faith, God decided, okay? And then we receive it, and then our duty then is to just do what he's commanded us to do. And then at the end of it, just say we are unworthy servants. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.